Mountaineering is actually it's not. So every other sport is about winning or losing.
Right.
Mountaineering is about life and death.
With belief and action, everything is possible. That's exactly what these sisters have proved by climbing the tallest peak in the world. Let's welcome the Vaidya sisters, Aditi and Anuja Vaidya, on our show. Over to you, Aditi.
I'm Aditi Vaidya. I'm 25. So we have had a passion in mountaineering since a long time. So we wanted to be, the first Gujarati females to climb the highest peak in the world.
I'm Anuja Vaidya. I completed my bachelor's and then I was into climbing and all. So I climbed Everest and so we have this mission of 7 summits. So there are 7 continents in the world and we decided to climb the highest peak from each continent and I'm already done with 6.
Lovely.
I'll be done with 7th in June.
So moving back, as mountaineering is a very tough sport. So what were some of the training challenges which you face?
Training, I won't say there were many challenges in training because see in mountains whenever we go to climb mountains it's always like you feel that you have trained less, you should have trained more. How much ever you trained for mountains. So when we were here before Everest, we did quite a few peaks. So we were in mountains for almost a year before we climbed Everest. We went to, there's this peak in Leh called Stock Kangri, which is a trekker's peak in summers, but in winters it is very difficult to climb it. Like there are very few people who have summited it in winter, so we were not able to summit it, but it was a very good experience. We went till the last camp and it was like there was minus 50, 45 degree Celsius and all, so it was a very good experience. And then apart from that, when we were here in Surat, we used to train at home and we used to carry heavy backpacks and run, and yeah, that's how we used to train.
Yeah, and also we have done mountaineering courses, and those mountaineering courses we have been pursuing in our life. Like there's an institute in Abu that gives rock climbing training, so we have done course from there. Then there are institutes that give you proper mountaineering courses. Like we have special study related courses. Same way, they are certified mountaineering courses. So those also we have done almost all of them. Just one is left. We'll do that too soon. So we were properly trained and qualified before we went for Everest.
How do you prepare like a proper report or analysis that this is the amount of stuff you need to carry on your travel or in your expedition?
When you have done so when we do this mountaineering training and all, this is what we are taught, that we have this whole chapter that we have to learn in mountaineering training. It teaches you about planning an expedition. How do you plan an expedition, in which you learn everything, like from which equipments to take with you, how much food, how many days the expedition should be, whom to select like for as members of the expedition. So we are taught everything. So that is where we learn it, and that is how we implement it when we go in this expeditions. Moreover, this one we went with a company, so we already had things in place. The company plans it for us. Yeah.
Who is like an ideal candidate to go for a mountaineering journey?
So on mountains, you have to make sure that the person with you, your teammate, is the person you can trust on with your life. And whom can you trust on with your life? The person who knows what mountaineering is. He knows how to deal with, emergency. He knows how to deal with whatever the problems they'll come up. He should be able to save himself as well as you in case of emergencies. Yeah. So that is how we select people who are experienced or whom we know can do it, who have done the training. So that is how we select.
So there must be instances where you might be separate from your co-partner.
Well, on mountains we are always like 90% of the time we are tied up to each other because there are crevasses and there are so many risk factors. What if you slip down? no one is gonna
That-
be
that
able to
is-
help you.
right,
So you
exactly.
are always tied to your teammates. Like we call it rope up. So you are roped up with your team. So if just in case the last person or the first person falls, the rest of the climbers can arrest the fall. And
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then we follow a system called buddy system.
Oh yeah. So wherever you go on mountains, if even once if you establish your camp on a particular place, and then if you want to go for washroom or anything, you never go alone. You
Alone,
never
never.
step out of the tent alone.
Okay.
You always have to have your buddy, with you.
So what are like the emergency SOS things you have to carry?
According to your team, according to the members that are in your team, you have these walkie-talkies.
Right, yeah.
And we also carry satellite phones, but they are just like literally for emergency purpose. And yeah, that's how we.
And then there are certain equipments that are used in mountaineering in case we get caught up in avalanche. So there are specially designed equipments for that. So those equipments that we have, and every person in their backpack, they have to carry a flashlight, their own medikit. Every person has to have their own medikit. And
Food
then
and water.
little bit food, little bit water, 1 or 2 layers of clothes and all. So these are some things that are very necessary, and they have to be there in each and every person's backpack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is mountaineering not considering like considered as a proper sport in India?
Mountaineering is a bit expensive. Another thing, it is risky, so people are not very much aware about the sport. Most of the sports, they have like competitions there in Olympics or Asian Games or
Right.
Commonwealth Games. So they are covered by television, they are covered by media and all, so people are aware about it. Mountaineering, they can't, like she said, it can't be competed.
It cannot be competed,
Yeah.
and it cannot be even telecasted.
Exactly. Well, these days it can be, but people prefer not to.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it is very tough, and also that is why it is not reaching out to as many people as it should. So that is one of the reasons that it's not very popular, and it's not considered a sport. Well, I wouldn't say not considered a sport, but less
It's not
considered a
in-
sport.
How do you think you will be able to promote this further? Or what is your contribution to this?
We have been, so after we did this, we came here, we have made a whole movie on our journey from Surat to Everest and back to Surat. And we have done many shows in schools, in colleges, wherever possible. And we try to tell people that this is also a sport, and this sport is something that is going to teach you something which nothing else is going to teach you. No courses, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much money you're going to spend, nothing is going to teach you what mountaineering will teach you.
Right.
So that is how we are trying to, and everyone who's reaching out to us through social media or through connections or any way.
Right. And so what were some of the experiences which you incurred on the way? Like the most memorable experiences?
I would like to share one experience. So when we were on the top of Everest, after we summited, when we were returning, there was a huge traffic jam. A huge lot of people were, just stuck there because you cannot just overtake there from anywhere. There's just one single line in which
yeah,
you
which
have
you
to
have to
walk,
follow.
and there's like 1,000 meters fall this side and this side. So.
Right.
You cannot overtake, and like we were going down and people were coming up, so like we were both facing each
So
other,
there's a
and
traffic
there's no
jam.
way we can go down or they can come up. So there was this traffic jam, and it was there for like 1.5 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah, nearly 1.5 hours.
Wow.
And we had to stand there, and we could not do anything. And so in minus 50-degree temperature, when you walk, you'll be okay even if you're wearing everything. But
Right.
when you stand, the cold is going to kill you. That's what you are gonna feel.
It's pinching.
Yeah, it's so cold. And yeah, so we had to stand there doing nothing for 1.5 hours, and our oxygen got over and at different times. But so on the top, there's just 30% of oxygen of what we breathe here,
Yeah, right.
and it was so difficult. I still remember. You cannot even move if the oxygen is over in your tank. You can survive for a while. Obviously, you can because
15 minutes is ideal time we can survive max.
Uh,
Yeah, but it's not like
Yeah.
there's zero oxygen.
Yeah,
so
there is-
You can survive a few hours.
Yeah.
Over there because there's a little bit oxygen. So, yeah.
But it's
But it's
relatively
very difficult.
thinner than.
Oh, it is. It
It
is
is
very much
very-
thinner. So that is why if you stay calm, if you are patient, you can
Exactly.
survive for some time. But if you panic,
you don't
not
have to
even 15
panic, and
minutes.
it was so difficult for us to stay calm at that time, but we did it because we have done all the courses and we knew how to handle these situations, and that's one reason why courses are very important. And so this was one experience that was, I don't know, it was good or bad, but
It was
now that we are
memorable.
here,
yeah, it was.
It was memorable.
it was memorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
With you, Aditi, some experience which you.
Aconcagua.
Okay, I would, yeah. I was about to say. So, a peak in Argentina that we did, that was our first summit of all. It's called Aconcagua. So, we did that in, I think, last February.
Yeah, last Feb.
Last year, February. And it was a nice peak. It was another peak where we had to carry like 25 kilos to 27 kilos in our backpacks and walk. It was really hot. So, the temperature ranged from plus 37 degrees to minus 37 degrees on the top. So that was the
Wow.
range we worked in on the whole mountain. So it was, and the last day when after we summited and we came back, we had to walk for 30 kilometers that day. We walked down the mountain 30 kilometers that day. So it was a very, very long day. Even the summit of this mountain, we faced a bad weather on the. It was a whiteout. So what is a whiteout? Basically, a whiteout is a situation where the fog and clouds come in and you can't see anything. Like if I'm here, I can't even see you.
Zero visibility.
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah, zero visibility. So it was a whiteout and we had to walk in whiteout, and there was winds and snow and all on the summit day when we were in Aconcagua. So yeah, that was one experience that we faced and we learned a lot from that. And another one that was a very pretty one was on Everest on the day that we went for summit. So we were going in on summit. So we usually, for summits, we start at night, usually midnight. On Everest we started late evening, like 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock around.
Right.
And by midnight we were at a point that is called South Summit. So that was the point that we were, and we happened to look like back. We were walking up, and we were at a height, and we looked back. So when we looked back, far away, we saw a black cloud, which had orange lightings in it, like we had never seen something like that before. It was not even lightning. Lightning is usually white and it's like a different form.
Right.
This was black cloud with literally orangish yellow lightings in it, like someone's glowing bulbs in
Right.
there. So it was very pretty. So after we came back on base camp, I asked our Sherpas and all, we were discussing what that was, and he said that it was lightning, but it was for the first time that you saw lightning from above the cloud.
Okay.
Usually we are here and we see lightning, and
lightning
it's
from below the cloud.
So that was lightning from above the cloud. So it was an experience I think I'll never get again in my life. So it was very pretty.
I'll keep you all posted, and that's all it from us to Aditi and Anuja Vaidya. All the best once again, and follow us on our social media platforms.